very difficult condition. Everywhere fear and worry around us. Always we are tense about our future. But stay in present moment and try to beautiful every present moment. When I am feeling a little mood off, I just clean the space where I am. I clean my study room and it helps me to calm my mind. I love to keep the place around me clean and beautiful because it gives you positive vibration. When I arrange my study room in beautiful way and keep it very nicely, it keeps myself very clean. I prefer the white color, so I always try to keep white trim all around of my room and it gives me good vibration. When you organize the room whenever you are, it helps you to calm yourself. Just try. You will definitely see beautiful result. It is like a meditation. Now let's come back in our subject. In my earlier video, I have discussed about intermediate value theorem. Today, I will discuss at first this theorem with example deeply. At first, let's see one example which had come IIT JAM 220. The question is, f from R to R be a continuous function such that f of x equal to f of x plus 1 for all x belongs to R. Notice this condition, here continuous also. We all of us know the periodic function f of x equal to f of x plus t, that imply a function which is repeating over the period t. Here given f of x equal to f of x plus 1 and f is continuous. That means here obviously the function has a period. Here the period is 1. That means the function is repeating over a period 1. We all of us know if a function is continuous and periodic, then f must be bounded. And we all of us know the image here f of 0, 2. Are you getting? And since the image is the f of 0, 2, so this periodic function always bounded. And there exists always a supremum. Supremum is look like there exists a belongs to close interval 0 t such that f of a equal to supremum x belongs to 0 t f of x. Are you getting? Well, in first option given, f is not necessarily bounded above. Since this is periodic function, I have seen any periodic function always must be bounded. So option first is a wrong option. F is not necessarily bounded above, this is wrong. Now comes back the option second. Option second tells there exists no x0 belongs to R such that f of x0 plus pi equal to f of x0. And option third tells there is a unique x0 belongs to R such that f of x0 plus pi equal to f of x0. And option 4 tells there is the infinitely many x0 belongs to R such that f of x0 plus pi equal to f of x0. Just notice the option. I will prove for this option for all alpha belongs to R, there exists x naught belongs to real number such that f of x naught plus alpha equal to f of x naught. Here alpha is any arbitrary number and in that question has given alpha equal to pi. Here I will consider the interval 0, 1. Since the function is periodic, 1, 2, 2, 3 all are same. Okay? And I have seen in any periodic function there exists always a supremum. Consider this point is A where supremum exists. And now consider the function, new function gx equal to f of x plus alpha minus f of x, and since both functions are continuous, so that implies gx must be continuous function. Okay, and here I have considered x belongs to a minus alpha to a. That means here the alpha distance, that this is a minus alpha and this is a. I have considered x belongs to this interval. Then for this value g of a minus alpha equal to, put the value always would be f of a minus f of a minus alpha, and g of a equal to f of a plus alpha minus f of a. Since f of a is the supremum of the function a, that means this relation always will be greater than equal to 0, and similarly this will be less than equal to 0. Here the condition of intermediate value theorem has satisfied. So by intermediate value theorem there exists at least one x0 belongs to the open interval a minus alpha to a, such that g of x naught equal to 0. That means f of x naught plus alpha minus f of x naught equal to 0, which imply f of x naught plus alpha equal to f of x naught. Okay, here I have proved, given alpha belongs to R, there exists x naught belongs to R, such that f of x naught plus alpha equal to f of x naught. Here I have proved this. Now I will prove, is this x naught is unique or infinitely many? Previously I have considered the interval 0, 1, and a is the point where the function value has a supremum, and I have go back alpha distance from a, and this point I have considered a minus alpha. Since it is alpha distance from a, so this point is a minus alpha, and since the function is a periodic function, so value of 0, 1 is similar to value of 1, 2, and the value of a is similar to 1 plus a. Similarly, if I go back alpha distance from 1 plus a, then here it would be, if this distance is alpha, then here the value will be 1 plus a minus alpha. Similarly, if I consider 2, 3 interval, then this point will be 2 plus a, which is this value is similar to 1 plus a, so on. And similarly, this process will continue since the function is periodic function. Before I have considered this interval a minus alpha to a, and I have seen in this interval at least there exists one x naught, such that f of x naught plus alpha equal to f of x naught. Similarly, we can consider this interval 1 plus a minus alpha to 1 plus a, and I will get there is this other x naught which satisfy this relation. If this process is continue, lastly I will get n plus a minus alpha to n plus a, and in this interval similarly I will get at least one x naught, and since the each interval are different, so each x naught are different. That means I will get infinitely many x naught belongs to R, such that f of x naught plus alpha equal to f of x naught. Now let's come back original question. That means there exists infinitely many x naught belongs to R, such that f of x naught plus pi equal to f of x naught. Here alpha equal to just particular point pi. So option 4 is a right option. Are you getting? This is very interesting and very important. And similar type of question which had come in NBSM exam. The question is, if the function from real number to real number be continuous and periodic, and with period t, prove that there exists x naught such that f of x naught plus t over 2 equal to f of x naught. I hope my all viewers have understood how I have to solve this method, because this is also example of intermediate value theorem. Just check it quickly. First we have to consider new function, and this is f of x naught plus t over 2 minus f of x naught. Now we have to find 2 points where gx is positive and gx is negative. And here 0 is the easiest point, and z0 equal to f of 0 plus t over 2 minus f of 0, and this is equal to f of t over 2 minus f of 0. And if we put the value t over 2, then gt over 2 equal to f of t minus f of t over 2. Okay, and see these two value, these both are opposite. One would be positive and another would be negative. So by intermediate theorem we can always tell there exists a x naught, at least one x naught, such that gx naught equal to 0. That means f of x naught plus t over 2 equal to f of x naught, and our proof has done. Are you getting? Well, I will again see similar type of question which had come CensorNet 2020. The question is, given two functions f and g, both are continuous on the interval close interval 0 1, such that f of 0 equal to f of 1 equal to 0 and g of 0 equal to g of 1 equal to 0, and the condition states f of half always strictly greater than g of half, then which of the following is true? Option 1 says there is no t belongs to close interval 0 1 such that f of t equal to gt. Option 2 says there exists exactly one t belongs to close interval 0 1 such that f of t equal to gt. And option 3 says there exists at least two t belongs to 0 1 such that f of t equal to gt. And option 4 says there are always infinitely many t belongs to 0 1 such that f of t equal to g of t. Let's see the question. This is similar type of question. At first we have to construct a new function h(x) which is equal to f of x minus gx. Since f and g are both continuous function, so their difference always would be continuous. Then since given condition f of 0 equal to f of 1 equal to 0 and g of 0 equal to g of 1 equal to 0, if we put the value 0, then this is equal to f of 0 minus g of 0, and since given f of 0 equal to 0, put the value, and g of 0 equal to 1, similarly put the value, and this is equal to minus 1 which is less than 0. Similarly, putting the value is 1, similarly I will get this is also minus 1 which is also less than 0. Now put the value half, because in the question have given f of half always greater than g of half. If you put this value, then this is always f of half minus g of half. Since f of half greater than g of half, this is always greater than 0. Are you getting? That means, just think, here the interval 0 1 and here half. Here I have got at the point 0 less than 0 minus negative sign, and here positive sign, and here also negative sign. That means by intermediate value theorem we can say there exists at least one x naught such that ace of x naught equal to 0, and if ace of x naught equal to 0, that imply always f of x naught equal to g of x naught. Similarly, in that interval, notice here also plus minus variation of sign. So similarly, by intermediate value theorem we can tell there can exist one x naught such that ace of x naught equal to 0. Similarly, this imply f of x naught equal to g of x naught. Are you getting? That means I can tell there exists at least two x naught such that f of x naught equal to g of x naught. That means our third option is a right option. There are at least two, here given at least two t belongs to 0, 1 such that f of t equal to g of t. Are you getting the importance of this intermediate value theorem? Okay. Now let's see one different type of question which had come in CSR Net 2 2020. The question is, let f be a non-constant polynomial of degree k and let g be a function from R to R, and here given g is bounded continuous function. Then which of the following statement is necessarily true? Option 1, there exists x naught belongs to R such that f of x naught equal to g of x naught. Option 2, there does not exist x naught belongs to R such that f of x naught equal to g of x naught. Option 3, there exists x naught belongs to R such that f of x naught equal to g of x naught if the order of the polynomial mean k is even. And fourth option is, there exists x naught belongs to R such that f of x naught equal to g of x naught if k is odd. At first, construct a new function ace of x equal to f of x minus g of x. Since f be a polynomial, so this is always continuous function, and g given bounded continuous function. So difference between two continuous function always would be continuous. So ace x must be continuous. Okay? We all of us know when the power of k is odd, then f of x always tends to infinity as x tends to infinity, and f of x always tends to minus infinity as x tends to minus infinity. But our new consistent function is a6, and since given gx is bounded continuous function, so fx minus gx tends to infinity when x tends to infinity, and this is always tends to minus infinity when x tends to minus infinity. And this is possible because fx tends to infinity as x tends to infinity, and fx tends to minus infinity as x tends to minus infinity. So by intermediate value theorem, since there exists variation of sign and ace(x) is continuous function, so there exists at least one x naught, such that ace of x naught equal to 0, and that imply f of x naught equal to g of x naught. Okay? This variation only possible for fx be a odd degree polynomial. This is not possible for all degree f. If we consider degree of f is even, that means k is even, then consider fx, let's consider fx equal to x square. Here the degree of f is even, and gx equal to constant term minus 1. Then what would be h6? h6 equal to x square minus 1, and which is equal to x square plus 1. We all of us know this polynomial has no real root, so there is no point such that h6 equal to 0. That means only option 4 is a right option. This is only possible when k is odd, because in that question has given when this would be necessary condition. This would be necessary condition when the degree of fx will be odd. Otherwise, this condition is not necessary condition. Similar type of example which had come in session net 2014. The question is, suppose that p is a monic polynomial of degree n in one variable with real coefficient and k is a real number, then which of the following statement is an are true? Option 1, if n is an even number and k greater than 0, then there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. Option 2 says, if n is an odd number and k less than 0, then there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. And option 3 says, for any natural number n and 0 less than k less than 1, there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. And option 4 says, if n is an odd number and k be the any real number, then there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. I hope my all viewers have understood how have to solve this problem, because I have solved this type of example many times. At first check for n is odd number. Here given p is a monic polynomial of degree n. We all of us know what is the monic. Monic means here always coefficient will be 1. And since n is odd number, then limit x tends to infinity, px times e to the power minus x always will be tends to 0. We all of us know it. And similarly, limit x tends to minus infinity, px times e to the power minus x tends to minus infinity. So, there exists a variation. Are you getting this variation? Here 0, here minus infinity. So, since here minus infinity, for k less than 0, we can tell there exists x1, x2 belongs to R such that px1 e to the power x1 less than k less than p of x2 over e to the power x2. Are you getting this relation? Okay. And since this is polynomial function and this is exponential function, so px over e to the power x always will be continuous function on the interval x1, x2. So by Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, we can tell always there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught over e to the power x naught equal to k, and that implies p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. And this is possible for only k less than 0 when the degree of n is odd number. Are you getting this method? That means option 2 is a right option. If n is an odd number and k less than 0, then always there exists a x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. This is a right option. But Option 4 is a wrong option because option 4 says if n is a odd number and k belongs to R, then there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to e to the power x naught, k e to the power x naught. This is a wrong option. When n is an even number, then limit x tends to infinity px e to the power minus x tends to 0, and limit x tends to minus infinity px e to the power minus x will be tends to infinity. So for k greater than 0, there exists always x1, x2 belongs to R real number such that p of x1 over e to the power x1 less than k less than p of x2 over e to the power x2. Since p of x over e to the power x is a continuous function on the interval x1, x2. So by Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem we can tell there exists x naught belongs to R such that p x naught over e to the power x naught equal to k. That means we can write it easily p x naught equal to k e to the power x naught where k greater than 0. And this is possible when n is an even number. Okay? That means option 1 is a right option. If n is an even number and k greater than 0, then there exists x naught belongs to R such that p of x naught equal to k e to the power x naught. So option 1 is a right option. Now I will see different type of question which had come also session net. Let f be a function from closed interval 0, 1 to R, and this function be a monotonic function such that f of 1 over 4 times f of 3 over 4 less than 0. And suppose supremum x belongs to closed interval 0, 1, f of x less than 0 equal to alpha. Then which of the following statement are correct? Option 1 says f of alpha less than 0, and option 2 says if f is increasing then f of alpha less than equal to 0. At first see these two options. Here a equal to, let's consider a equal to set of all x belongs to 0, 1 such that f of x less than 0. Set of all elements whose value is less than 0. And given supremum of this value equal to alpha. That means supremum of a equal to alpha given. And the function is from closed interval 0, 1 to R, monotonic function, and f of 1 over 4 times f of 3 over 4 less than 0. Now consider a function f of x equal to minus 1 for x belongs to closed interval 0, half, and 1 for all x belongs to half to 1. Okay? Let's see the graph. This point is 0, this is half, and this is 1. From 0 to half, the value of the function is minus 1, and here half is open interval. This point is minus 1 and this point is 1. From 0 to half, half is open interval. The value of the function is minus 1 and half to 1, and here the half is closed interval. The value of the function is 1. This is. And the given condition f of 1 over 4 times f of 3 over 4 less than 0. Notice this point is 1 over 4 and this point is 3 over 4. Here the condition has satisfied and this function is also monotonic. So we can take this graph. In option 1 and option 2 says about f of alpha. What would be f of alpha? Here the closed interval. So f of half always would be 1. So this is also always greater than 0. That means our first option f of alpha less than 0 is the wrong option, and our second option if f is increasing then f of alpha less than equal to 0. Our given function is also increasing but f of alpha greater than 0. So option 2 also wrong option. Next I will see option 4. Option 4 says if f is decreasing then f of alpha less than 0. And the condition says f of 1 over 4 times f of 3 over 4 less than 0. Since option 4 says f is decreasing, so f of 1 over 4 always greater than 0 and f of 3 over 4 always less than 0. And since 3 over 4 less than equal to 1, that means since f is decreasing, so f of 1 would be less than equal to f of 3 over 4, which is also less than equal to 0. From this line we can tell f of 1 less than 0. That implies 1 belongs to A, because A is the set of all elements such that f of x less than 0 and supremum of A equal to alpha. And since 1 belongs to A, that means 1 always less than equal to alpha. And A obviously contain in the closed interval 0, 1. That means from this line we can tell supremum of A contain supremum of closed interval 0, 1. And from this line we can tell supremum of 0, 1 equal to 1. That means supremum of A less than equal to 1. That implies alpha less than equal to 1. Here 1 less than equal to alpha and here alpha less than equal to 1. That implies alpha obviously equal to 1 and f of 1 always less than 0 because f is decreasing. So option 4 is a correct option. If f is decreasing then f of alpha less than 0. This is correct option. Let's see option 3rd. Option 3rd says if f is continuous and alpha lies between 1 over 4 to 3 over 4, then f of alpha must be 0. So f is monotonic, so either f is increasing or decreasing. Consider f is decreasing. Then supremum x belongs to 0, 1 such that f of x equal less than 0 always would be 1. And f of 3 over 4 always less than 0. And notice 1 does not belongs to the open interval 1 over 4 to 3 over 4. So this condition cannot satisfy when the function is decreasing. So f always would be increasing for this condition. So when the function is increasing, the given condition is f of 1 over 4 times f of 3 over 4 less than 0. So f of 1 over 4 would be less than 0 and f of 3 over 4 would be obviously greater than 0 because f is increasing. And given f is continuous in that interval 1 over 4 to 3 over 4. So by intermediate value theorem, by IVT, we can tell there exists C belongs to open interval 1 over 4 to 3 over 4 such that f of c equal to 0. But we have to prove f of alpha equal to 0. Here given alpha lies between the open interval 1 over 4 to 3 over 4. And by the definition of alpha equal to supremum of x belongs to 0, 1 and all such fx which less than 0. So by the definition we can tell alpha always would be less than equal to c. Since f is increasing, then f of alpha is either less than 0 or equal to 0. Consider f of alpha less than 0. Then by Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, in the interval, closed interval from alpha to c, there exists x belongs to open interval alpha c such that f of x equal to f of alpha by 2, which obviously also less than equal to 0. So I will get 1x which is greater than alpha, and this contradiction our definition of alpha. So f of alpha always would be equal to 0. Are you getting? That means option third is a right option. See? Well, now let's see one question of CSIR NET quickly, which had come in June 2020. First option, the series minus 1 to the power n over square root of n is convergent. We all of us know this series always convergent by Leibniz test. Okay? We all of us know it. Second, the series minus 1 to the power n over square root of n plus n is absolutely convergent. Here the absolutely convergent. We all of us know this method. Just again check. The series given minus 1 to the power n square root of n plus n. Here the series. Since here the question in about absolutely convergent, that means since the that here absolute, that means the series become 1 over square root of n plus n. Now apply limit comparison test. We all of us know this. Square root of n 1 plus square root of 1 over n. Now consider Vn equal to 1 over square root of n. Now apply limit comparison test. Consider this is un. Limit n tends to infinity, un over Vn. Now by applying the limit, the value equal to 1, and since this is the finite, so by limit comparison test, since the series Vn is divergent series, so our given series un always will be divergent. So our second option is a wrong option and first option is a right option. Now let's see the third option. The series 1 minus 1 to the power n square root of n plus log n over n to the power 3 over 2. Prove that this is convergent. This is the given series. Here I will break it in 3 different parts, and this is the 3 different part, and this is equal to 1 over n, and this is minus 1 to the power n over n plus the series log n over n to the power 3 over 2. Notice, we all of us know this series is divergent and this is convergent and this is also convergent. Since here one divergent and one convergent, so this sum always will be divergent. Are you getting this method? Just think, why divergent? This is not only for CSIR NET, this is also important for NBSM exam. Similar example which had come in NBSM exam. See this series. Just break it into divided part. As before, since we all of us know this is divergent and this is convergent. But since the series is divergent, then their sum always will be divergent. Okay? So this series is a divergent series. Are you getting? If we look such type of example in any competitive exam, just divided it and find each series which is convergent and which is divergent. If one of these is divergent series, then their sum always will be divergent. And this example also in NBSM exam, we all of us know this is convergent by Leibniz test, and this is I have discussed many times. this is always convergent by p test, because here p greater than 1. Now let's come back our original question. Come to last option. This is the fourth option. Notice this also we can write sum of the series. Similarly, I have broken it in two parts. This is always convergent series, because this series is similar to this series, and this series is always convergent by Leibniz test, we all of us know. And this is the p series, this is also convergent. So since both series are convergent, then total sum will be convergent. Okay? Well.